Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today we're taking a look at Maison Alhambra's Kismet Moscow. All right, so Kismet Moscow is from the house of Maison Alhambra, which is a sub-brand of the larger Middle Eastern fragrance house of Lattafa, if you are not familiar. It's an eau de parfum concentration, and you can pick this bad boy up for $23 at places like Perfumes Online. I'm gonna have a link down in the description if you decide you wanna check this one out. Also have a coupon code. Save yourself $5 on first purchase at Perfumes Online if you decide you wanna shop with them. We got a flanker to the Kismet for Men, which is a big hype beast along the Middle Eastern fragrances lately. Kismet Moscow. I saw this pop up on Perfumes Online, and one of you has been relentless, telling me that I have to pick this one up. I have to do a review, so here we are. I got it. I got Kismet Moscow for you. Box presentation, very similar to Kismet for Men. It has this nice kind of shimmering silver sort of front there with the name of the fragrance. And it is a nice thick cardboard box that has a slide open top there. Nice fancy ribbon. We do have the Kismet Moscow on the inside. So really nice box presentation on this, like the Kismet for Men. Very, very similar presentation. For $23, I'm not sure how they do this. All the necessaries are on the back of the box as well. And the bottle, again, is very similar to the Kismet for Men. A little bit more clear, doesn't have as much color. It is a very clear juice to this, but I do like these Kismet bottles. They have this kind of cool design on the side. Nice kind of, you know, straightforward, a simple style of bottle. Has that thick metal base to it, or thick glass base to it, I should say. So really, really nice bottle presentation. Nothing too special, but classy at that. Nice metal cap to this. It has a little bit of weight. Nothing too special going on with it. A little bit of kind of a, I don't know, a rimmed sort of style to it, but nothing to write home about. And the atomizer on this, pretty decent. Pretty wide sprays. It doesn't go far, but pretty wide, so it'll get the job done. But overall, for $23, really nice presentation. So if you were wondering what Maison Alhambra's Kismet Moscow smells like, you have come to the right place, because I'm about to tell you. This apparently is a clone dupe inspired by Kilian's Vodka on the Rocks. I do not own that fragrance, so I can't give you a side-by-side comparison, let you know if this is a good clone or inspired by, or even a twist of that fragrance. I'm only going to be speaking to this as a standalone fragrance and what I am getting from this. The By Kilian notes list off coriander, cardamom, aldehydes, rhubarb, lily of the valley, pink rose, oak moss, sandalwood, and ambroxan. So let me tell you what I get from this fragrance. In the opening is a very nice, clean, bright, fresh, and soapy style of fragrance. It has these really nice aldehydes that work in there, giving it this kind of clear, crisp style of soapiness, and that coriander note comes through, giving it a nice touch of the fresh spiciness. So that fresh spicy, that soapy accord kind of mixed together, giving it a very kind of clean, clear sort of vibe going on to it. Within like a minute or two, you start getting some of those mint notes, some of those heart notes coming through. You get this kind of sweet, sour style of green rhubarb style of note that comes through, adding kind of that greenness to it, a little bit of bitterness to it, that sourness that comes through, but just a touch of sweetness. And you get this nice lily of the valley coming through, adding to this kind of watery accord. It gives us this kind of like clearness to it, this like fresh, clean, watery spring sort of vibe going on to it. Really, really nice. And there is another floral in there that adds just kind of a kiss of softness, a little bit of sweetness. It could be kind of a pink rose sort of accord, has a bit of a rosy nuance going on to it. So all in all, you get this nice, soapy clean, but this crisp greenness that kind of comes through. And like I said, very clear, very watery style of like fresh spring water style of vibe. Really, really enjoyable style of fragrance in the opening. As this kind of works through a little bit, this mineral note starts to come through. So it adds this kind of like ting to it, this kind of nice kind of sharpness to it, this kind of even crisper edge that kind of elevates some of those green crisp notes. It contrasts against some of those soft florals, that lily of the valley and that kind of pink rosiness that comes through. And it just gives it like even a more kind of clear crispness to it. So it's a really nice mineral note that works its way in there. It's not super mineral forward, but it's just enough kind of sitting around the edges, giving it a nice kind of sharp edge, adding a little bit of masculinity to it, and really sort of elevating that scent accord of that fresh, spicy, that clean, that green sort of notes that's going on to it. And it just adds like a nice little pop, a little bit of a kick to it that's just really quite enjoyable. As this kind of dries down, it maintains that sort of soapy feel, that clean, clear, crisp sort of soapy feel with some of those sweet, sour kind of green accords, a little bit of that floral working through. But it sits on this nice kind of soft wood sort of accord, like a sandalwood, and there's like a touch of inkiness, a little bit of earthiness that comes through from sort of an oak moss note that comes through. It is subtle, it kind of sits as more of a foundation than a forward note. It just gives it a nice kind of masculine foundation for that kind of clean, green, crisp soapiness to sit on. And it's just a really nice fragrance. It is very unique. This isn't sort of a mass appealing necessarily sort of fresh style of fragrance. It does have a kind of a unique side. Could be a little bit challenging for some people because of that kind of floral accord that comes fairly forward and that just kind of sharpness, that mineral kind of combination. It is a bit different. It could be a little bit challenging, but it is enjoyable if you're into that kind of floral style of fragrance that has that kind of clear, crisp sort of vibe to it. If there's supposed to be booziness in this because of vodka on the rocks, I'm assuming there should be some booziness, even though vodka doesn't really have a smell to it. It doesn't have like a boozy accord that kind of comes through. If anything, that mineral note kind of adds a little bit of sharpness that you would get from like a clear liquor, like a vodka or like a gin or something to that degree, like a very clean, clear sort of mineral note that comes through that could be kind of detected or interpreted as a bit of a boozy note, but it's not like an overly boozy fragrance. Again, it's more kind of a mineral accord than it is anything else in terms of a liquor sort of note coming through. But overall, like I said, very unique, very floral forward, has that sharpness, has that kind of nice crisp greenness to it, and overall a very enjoyable scent accord. So when it comes to the performance of Maison Alhambra's Kismet Moscow, I get about average performance on this. Longevity off my skin is about 5-6 hours. If I get some on my clothing, I can definitely push that out to like the 6-7 hour mark, no problem. I did find that, you know, getting this on my skin, it didn't perform as good as maybe I would have hoped, but for kind of that fresh, clean, soapy sort of like freshy kind of vibe that you would get from this, I'm not too surprised it didn't last for a very long time. They tend not to. So about the 5-6 hour mark, so about average of longevity, maybe a touch below average when it comes to longevity. And projection was good for like the first hour, maybe hour and change, but it did move in quite quickly and it did sit fairly close after that hour. So projection, again, was good for the first hour, but it did quickly move back in and it did sit fairly close. So again, about average, maybe a little bit below average when it comes to the projection of this fragrance. I do think in the high heat, this will perform a little bit better though. It has that kind of sharpness, those floral notes that work in there, that crisp greenness that works in there. I think the heat's going to activate this quite a bit. So I do think the projection on this will be a lot better once we get into kind of the warmer spring, hotter summer months. So as of right now, kind of, you know, wearing this indoors or whatever, average performer overall, but could do a little bit better come the warm temperatures. So when it comes to the where and when, I think Maison Alhambra's Kismet Moscow would be most appropriate. Definitely think this is going to be a great spring, summer style of fragrance. I think the high heat, like I just mentioned, is really going to kind of activate this one and kind of push it out a little bit harder. But the scent accords in this are just have that nice spring vibe, has that kind of summer vibe. Those floral notes that work in there with that greenness that works in there, that sharpness, has a very kind of spring, rejuvenating, new growth sort of vibe going on to it, and it just hits when it comes to spring and summer. So I definitely think those are going to be the best seasons to wear this. And again, high heat, I think this is going to really push off. I think this is going to perform very well, and there's no accords in here that I think are going to be too much once the high heat comes. So spring, summer, definitely where I think this one's going to shine. In terms of occasion, very casual style fragrance. I think you can wear this for your everyday, going about town, casual lunches, running errands, going about your day-to-day. I think this is an office-friendly fragrance as well. I think you can pull this off. There's nothing too, you know, obtrusive or offensive about this fragrance. It does have that sharpness to it. It does have like a bit of a floral note. And like I said, it is a little bit unique. This is not kind of a mass appealing style of fragrance necessarily. So maybe, you know, don't go crazy on the sprays and just be blasting people out with that kind of sharp, green, crisp, sort of soapy vibe you got going on. But I definitely think you can pull this off in the office as long as you're not a complete lunatic when it comes to spraying. In terms of gym, maybe, I think there'd be better choices for the gym. It does have that clean, soapy vibe going on to it, but like I said, there's a sharpness to this, that mineral note that comes through. Might not be your best gym choice, but I think you can pull it off. I think you can get away with it if you're so inclined to do so. And in terms of date nights and formal nights, this doesn't have that kind of like sexiness or kind of that distinguished sort of nature to it for necessarily a dress-up occasion. You could get away with it. Like I said, you're not going to offend anybody. It has a nice scent profile to it, but that sort of sexiness or that kind of seriousness isn't quite there. I think it's more of a casual fragrance overall. So like I said, a casual fragrance, spring, summer is where this is going to do best. So my overall thoughts on Maison Alhambra's Kismet Moscow is it's a very enjoyable fragrance. It's a little bit unique, and this was a little bit sort of challenging for me at the very beginning. I was expecting something a little bit different perhaps, but because it's so kind of fresh, soapy, but mixed with that kind of sweet, sour green, with that kind of watery sort of vibe going on to it, and with that kind of mineral note that pokes through, it is unique, and it might be a little bit challenging for some people. If you're not really into kind of more floral forward fragrances with kind of some sharpness mixed in there, or like some really crisp green notes that are worked in there, you might not enjoy this one. This might be a little bit challenging for you, and it might not be your jam. But this is like, the more I've worn this, the more it's kind of grown on me. It is very like different from what I typically wear, and I like to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone, you know, have a little bit of variety in my life. So I do enjoy this one. I think it's a nice, crisp, green, bright, masculine style of fragrance. Even though it has that kind of that soft and elegant kind of floral forward notes coming through with it, I still think it maintains that masculinity to it. And I think it's a really enjoyable fragrance when it comes to that. So it does push me out of my comfort zone. It is different. It is a little bit unique, and it won't be for everybody. But overall, I am quite pleased that I have this in my collection now. Performance on this, I wish it could be a little bit better, pending sort of the high heat summer months. We'll see how it goes when it comes to that, but I do wish performance was a little bit better. I think it could have pushed off a little bit harder. I think longevity could have been a little bit better, but like I said, it was about average, maybe a little bit below average. And I think for the price point of $23, I definitely am getting my money's worth. So not too disappointed with the performance, but we all want a beast mode fragrance, and you know, they can't all be beast modes. This one is no exception. And like I said, casual spring summer wear. I can't wait to wear this in the spring and the summer, just see how it goes. So overall, I am quite pleased with this. Like I said, for $23, I think presentation, scent accord, all that was definitely worth my money. I'm happy I have this in my collection. If this sounds like something you want to check out, I definitely think you should. It's Maison Alhambra's Kismet Moscow. And I want to hear from you guys. What's one Maison Alhambra fragrance that I haven't reviewed yet that you'd like to see me review? Comment down below. Love hearing from you guys. Love getting your different recommendations, different scent profiles, tastes, all that good stuff. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.